From an early age, I had an interest in my heritage and where I came from. Growing up hosting many exchange students, this desire to know more about my ancestors was only heightened. I have been fortunate to have a family member, on both sides of my family, take an interest in our genealogy as well. In fact, my family has been traced back pretty far with few exceptions. For the sake of time, I will focus on the more researched side of my family, the maternal side. My mother's side of the family can trace its origins back definitively to England, Scotland, Ireland, Denmark, and Germany. After doing a DNA test, it also appears we may have some Nordic and Swedish roots as well. My family's immigration to the United States occurred over different periods of time for the different families. The Huggins family arrived about 6 generations back in 1856, where the Graves family arrived shortly after the Mayflower in the 1600s. While we can't be sure as to the exact reason our ancestors traveled to the United States, it was likely in search of better opportunities or joining family members who had already immigrated. When considering my family's cultural traditions today, we don't have many that can trace back to our ancestral roots. An interview with my aunt about our cultural heritage suggests that our ancestors assimilated to the mainstream culture fairly quickly. By suppressing their cultural traditions, my ancestors likely experienced more privilege. This could have occurred in 2 ways. First, my ancestors could have assimilated to the white majority and benefited from privilege based on unearned entitlements. Or, second, my ancestors could have belittled other minorities to earn privilege over them. This is called conferred dominance. The most notable traditions that have been passed down in my family come from my great-great-grandparents, Jens and Anna Christian Andersen. They immigrated from Denmark to the United States in 1882 and ended up in Racine, Wisconsin, where a large portion of my extended family still lives. One tradition in this family is to serve the Danish pastry kringle and rice pudding on special occasions. Aside from the Danish influence, religion has also had a strong cultural tradition and value in my family. As far as we know, our ancestors all have been Protestant Christians. This is a value that has continued in my immediate and extended families. A result of this Christian heritage is what I call a pseudo-patriarchy. This is when the family has the appearance of a patriarchy while it's actually structured as a matriarchy. I believe this is the result of the Bible often being interpreted to support patriarchies in male-led households. In my conversations with family members, it seems that our family has always put effort into allowing the husband and the father to lead his family. But after further inspection, it seems we have only ever had the appearance of a patriarchal structure. When considering who is the decision maker, for at least the last several generations, our family has operated more as a matriarchy. This may be a direct result of some male family heads dying at a young age, but in my opinion, the matriarchy continues to be the trend even when the men in my family live long lives. I believe our matriarchal structure is a result of valuing strength, intelligence, and reliability in women, which in turn results in women enjoying and thriving in leadership roles. My family's values of religion and pseudo-patriarchy have directly impacted me as I have developed my personal values. Religion has always been an important part of my life, more specifically, an important area of study. Like many children, I was shuffled into Sunday school every week to learn Bible verses, but I was also encouraged to spend my own time studying the Bible. Over the years, I have read many authors' takes on Christianity, and each one has shaped my views. Although I may have some more liberal religious values than I was initially presented with, for example, being open to female leadership in churches, The introduction of religion as an important focus in my life is the result of my family's values. Religion has played an interesting role in my view of family structure. Once again, due to my experience and research, I have landed at a more liberal concept of family structure than was initially presented to me. The idea of a strong male leadership with submissive females is an appalling concept to me today, where my ancestors had strived for it. And where the term feminism is still too radical for my family to accept, I find myself using that label to describe myself more and more the older I get. Although I have not strayed too far from our family's values, my personal values do take a new perspective on certain issues. It is interesting to think that had my ancestors come from different countries, my family and myself would likely have different values today. As far as my interaction with others, a value that I will have to be cautious of is my aversion to the patriarchy. Growing up in a world where women have more respect and more opportunities than ever has really changed my perspective on the patriarchy in general. With all the progress that has been made, and all the women who have made significant contributions to society, it seems wild that women can still be seen as second-rate citizens. This has been a common argument that I have had with my immediate family members, as I have tried to fight the notion of this pseudo-patriarchy. All the important decisions and household tasks are placed on women, and yet they often receive no credit for their position. This has stirred up some resentment in me towards those who choose a patriarchal system. My dislike for patriarchal systems has the potential for me to discredit and become angry with those who are adamant supporters for it, which may lead to discriminating against those who don't share my view. As school counselor, I will need to acknowledge this attitude and set it to the side as I talk with families who do uphold a patriarchal family system. This will be especially challenging when it involves female students who, to me, feel like they are being forced into the position of wife, mother, and caretaker. As my ancestors once came to the United States and assimilated to the majority, I will need to be careful that I am not also expecting others to Americanize themselves to the popular beliefs of the day. After looking at my family tree, it is pretty clear that it lacks diversity. Most of my ancestors came from Western Europe, share similar religious views, and came from similar socioeconomic statuses. This being said, my family still originated from 6 different countries, likely even more, and there is a lot to learn and embrace in my ancestry. Although only a small bit of this cultural heritage has been passed down, to my knowledge, there are still opportunities for me to learn about these cultures again. One way we have done this in my family is by hosting exchange students. Although this was not done with the intention of learning about our own origins, as we hosted students from all over the world, it turned into a fun opportunity to learn about traditions that my own ancestors may have participated in. Another way I have reconnected with some of my heritage has been to travel to these countries. Taking walking tours, spending time with locals, and eating new foods has been an educational experience for me to imagine life from a new perspective. I imagine that in the small rural community I grew up in, people likely have similar ancestral backgrounds as me. I cannot know this for sure, but I come to the conclusion because we are a majority white community with very little expression of different cultural heritages, like festivals or celebrations that don't relate to the Christian faith. Overall, I've come to the conclusion that my family has long since assimilated to American values. It is sad that I haven't had the chance to experience my cultural heritage being passed down. What is even more significant is that at one point my ancestors may have been in a situation that forced them to assimilate and give up such a prominent aspect of who they were. The United States has had and continues to have a complicated history with immigrants. Looking at my own background gives me perspective on how to move forward in a way that preserves cultural heritages. It is an upsetting reality that those who immigrate to the United States are often encouraged or forced to give up their culture. My goal after this class will be to acknowledge where I have come from, what I value, and my own shortcomings, so that I can better accept those who come from different homes and choose different lifestyles. I will use my voice to advocate for their right to maintain their culture and their rights as humans.